Welcome to the Pencil Bob channel. I hope you enjoy my stories.
We moved into the neighborhood in September 2023, hoping for a fresh start. At first glance, everything seemed promising. Quiet streets, well-kept properties, and a general sense of normalcy that we had been craving. It felt like the kind of place where you could finally breathe easy. By October, we decided to adopt a dog for my spouse. It wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment decision. It came after months of discussions with their doctor, who strongly recommended a companion animal to help with my spouse's ongoing mental health struggles. The change was almost immediate. Having the dog around brought a sense of comfort and stability to our home that had been missing for a long time. We followed all the rules, or so we thought. We registered the dog, made sure it was well behaved, and even kept it on a leash at all times outside. But apparently, the HOA had its own interpretation of what, by the book, meant. And it wasn't long before their disapproval began to overshadow everything. Everything started innocently enough. A month after moving in, we decided to get a dog. It wasn't just a whim. My spouse's doctor had actually suggested it might help with their mental health issues. We thought it was a great idea, a furry companion to brighten our days and provide emotional support. We carefully chose a friendly, medium-sized mutt from the local shelter, and for a while, everything was perfect. Then June arrived, and with it came a shocking announcement from the HOA. Out of nowhere, they introduced a set of new pet rules, strict guidelines, and a laundry list of restrictions that felt more punitive than practical. On top of that, they implemented an annual pet fee, as if owning a pet wasn't already a responsibility in itself. The whole thing felt like a slap in the face, especially since we'd gone out of our way to follow every existing rule. We were frustrated, of course, but what could we realistically do? Rules are rules, and fighting them seemed like an uphill battle we weren't prepared to take on. Begrudgingly, we resigned ourselves to the situation, figuring we'd just have to bite the bullet, pay the fee, and move on. Or so we thought. But this is where things started to get tricky. By August, my spouse's mental health had taken a downward turn, and their psychiatrist strongly recommended an emotional support animal, ESA, to help manage the worsening symptoms. It felt like a ray of hope, a chance to navigate the challenges with a little more support. We were relieved and even excited, believing that this would provide some much-needed stability. And surely, the ESA designation would exempt us from the HOA's new pet restrictions and fees. Armed with the official letter from the psychiatrist, we promptly submitted it to our landlord, confident this would clear the way. The landlord passed it along to the HOA, and for a brief moment, we thought we'd finally caught a break. Their response was blunt and disheartening. The pet is allowed, but the fees still apply. It felt like a slap in the face, given the ESA designation and the clear purpose behind it. Disappointed but unwilling to stir up conflict, we begrudgingly agreed to pay the fee, hoping this would put the matter to rest. We wanted peace, not a drawn-out battle with the HOA. But peace was the last thing we got. As it turned out, this was just the beginning of a much bigger headache. The very next month, it was like someone flipped a switch. Suddenly, we were getting fined for everything. And I mean everything. Taking the dog down to the lobby? Fine. Doing dog laundry? Fine. Throwing a watermelon rind down the garbage chute? Apparently, that goes against the pet rules too. Fine. It didn't stop there. They started dredging up alleged violations from 8 months ago, things we'd never even been warned about before. It felt like we were being targeted, singled out for some reason we couldn't understand. To top it all off, they demanded a vet certification stating our dog's weight and confirming its safety. This was despite the fact that we'd already provided an ESA letter and that our dog had been living in the building for months without incident. I'd had enough. I knew my rights, and I wasn't about to let them push us around like this. I wrote a strongly worded demand letter, accusing them of discrimination, retaliation, and intimidation. I thought that would put an end to it. A week later, their attorney replied. They acknowledged that we had a valid ESA and admitted that the pet fees had been erroneously charged. But get this, they insisted that all the other fines still applied. And they had the nerve to tell us that while we could take our dog on the elevator, we should refrain from boarding if another resident verbally expresses fear or allergy concerns. It took them almost 2 months and a threat of legal action to even partially accommodate us. 2 months of stress, anxiety, and financial strain. 2 months of feeling like we were walking on eggshells in our own home. The worst part, we've been living here for over a year now, And not once has anyone complained about our dog being aggressive or causing any problems. The building is full of pets. Our next-door neighbor takes her dog on the elevator all the time without any consequences. When I told her about our fines, all she could say was, "I'm sorry, guys. I just got a warning. It's infuriating. My spouse is on SSI due to their mental health issues. The need for this dog is real and medically documented, but the HOA seems determined to make our lives miserable." The attorney's response included a thinly veiled threat. To the extent any further violations occur, the board will take any and all necessary action and avail itself of all recourse pursuant to the Declaration, Rules, and Act. In other words, they're watching us, waiting for us to slip up so they can pounce again. I posted about this situation on an online renters forum a few days ago, hoping for some advice or support. Instead, I got a lot of hate. People telling me to just follow the rules, to stop complaining, to move out if I don't like it. As if it's that simple. As if we haven't been trying our best to comply with their ever-changing, arbitrarily enforced rules. It's been a week since that threatening letter from the HOA's attorney, and the stress is really getting to us. My spouse's anxiety is through the roof. They're afraid to take the dog out, worried that someone might complain and we'll get hit with another fine. I've started taking the dog out myself, but I'm not much better. Every time I step into the elevator with our furry friend, I find myself scanning the faces of the other residents, trying to gauge if anyone looks annoyed or afraid. This morning, I ran into Mrs. Johnson from the 5th floor in the elevator. She's always been friendly, cooing over our dog whenever she sees him. But today, she seemed hesitant. She asked if it was okay for her to pet him, glancing nervously at the security camera in the corner of the elevator. "Of course," I said, trying to keep my voice light. He loves the attention. As she bent down to scratch behind his ears, she whispered, "I heard about what's been happening. It's not right, what they're doing to you." I felt a lump form in my throat. It was the first bit of sympathy we'd received from anyone in the building. "Thanks," I managed to croak out. She straightened up, adjusting her scarf. "You know, my son's a lawyer. He specializes in housing discrimination cases. If you need someone to talk to." The elevator dinged, cutting her off. It was her floor. As she stepped out, she pressed a business card into my hand. "Just in case," she said with a wink, before the doors closed between us. I stood there, staring at the card long after Mrs. Johnson had gone. Part of me wanted to call the number right away, to finally fight back against this injustice. But another part of me was afraid. What if it made things worse? What if they found some way to evict us? When I got back to our apartment, my spouse was sitting on the couch, absently stroking our dog's fur while staring blankly at the TV. They looked up when I entered, their eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. "How was the walk?" they asked, their voice small and tired. I hesitated, then decided to tell them about Mrs. Johnson and the lawyer's card. As I spoke, I saw a spark of hope ignite in their eyes. It was the first time in weeks I'd seen anything but fear and exhaustion there. "Maybe we should call," they said, sitting up straighter. "Maybe this is our chance to fight back." I wanted to share their optimism, but I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled in my stomach. "I don't know," I said, sinking into the armchair across from them. "What if it backfires? What if they decide we're more trouble than we're worth and find a way to kick us out?" My spouse's face fell, the brief moment of hope extinguished. "You're right," they mumbled, slumping back into the couch. "It's not worth the risk." We sat in silence for a while, the only sound the gentle snoring of our dog, blissfully unaware of the turmoil surrounding his presence. I found myself envying his ignorance. Later that evening, as I was preparing dinner, there was a knock at the door. My heart leapt into my throat. Was it the HOA again? Had they found some new infraction to fine us for? I approached the door cautiously, peering through the peephole. To my surprise, it was our neighbor, Tammy, the one who had only received a warning for her dog. I opened the door, forcing a smile. "Hey, Tammy, what's up?" She glanced nervously down the hallway before speaking in a hushed tone. "Can I come in for a minute? I need to talk to you about something." Puzzled, I stepped aside to let her in. As soon as the door was closed behind her, she turned to me, her face serious. "I overheard the HOA board members talking in the lobby earlier," Tammy said, her voice low and hurried, as if she couldn't get the words out fast enough. Her face was pale, and she kept glancing over her shoulder, as though afraid someone might catch her. "They were discussing your case." It doesn't sound good." My stomach twisted into a knot. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice cracking slightly. She hesitated, chewing on her bottom lip like she was debating whether to tell me. Finally, she leaned in closer. They're talking about making an example out of you. They think if they let one ESA slide, soon everyone will claim they need one. I heard one of them say, "It'll be chaos if we don't nip this in the bud." They're looking for any excuse to escalate things, anything at all. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat heavier than the last. It felt like the walls were closing in. But that's illegal, isn't it? I stammered, grasping at straws. They can't discriminate against us for having an ESA. There are laws protecting us. Tammy let out a long sigh, her eyes filled with worry. I don't know the legalities of it all, she admitted, shaking her head. I just thought you should know what they're saying. They're watching you closely, and if they find even the smallest reason to come after you, they will. I ran a hand through my hair, my mind racing. This can't be happening. We've done everything right. How can they just... Listen, Tammy interrupted, her voice firm but kind. Be careful. Document everything, every letter, every conversation, every little thing they do. If they're going to play dirty, you need to be ready. Her words hung heavy in the air. I nodded, swallowing hard. Thanks, Tammy. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything, she replied, offering a faint, apologetic smile. Just watch your back, okay? And with that, she slipped away, leaving me standing there, my head spinning and my chest tight with dread. After she left, I slumped against the closed door, my mind reeling. When my spouse asked who it was, I couldn't bring myself to tell them the full truth. They were already stressed enough. Just Tammy, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Wanted to borrow some sugar. As I lay in bed that night, unable to sleep, I couldn't help but wonder how things had gotten so out of control. We'd moved here hoping for a fresh start, a peaceful place to call home. Instead, we found ourselves trapped in a nightmare of our own making, all because we dared to get a dog to help with my spouse's mental health. The worst part was, I had no idea how to fix it. Every option seemed fraught with risk. Fight back legally? Risk eviction. Keep our heads down and try to comply? Risk more arbitrary fines and constant stress. Move out? We couldn't afford it, and breaking our lease would be financial suicide. So here we are, stuck in limbo. Every day feels like walking through a minefield. We love our dog, and he's been a tremendous help for my spouse's mental health. But at what cost? The constant stress and fear are taking their toll on both of us. As I finally drifted off to sleep, one thought kept circling in my mind. How did a simple desire to have a pet turn into this Kafkaesque nightmare? And more importantly, how are we ever going to find our way out of it? That's complete and utter bullshit. But honestly, it's exactly what you'd expect from someone on a power trip fueled by ableist attitudes. It's like they have a handbook for this kind of nonsense, and they're flipping straight to the chapter on how to make life as difficult as possible for people who dare to ask for accommodations. And the garbage chute rule? That's a whole new level of bizarre. It's so out of left field that I can't help but wonder if it's the result of an office worker zoning out and accidentally mixing up policies while they were distracted by their phone or something. It's either that, or they've officially crossed into petty for the sake of being petty territory. And honestly, I'm not sure which is worse. Either way, it's infuriating. The HOA is a shit. Lawyer up quickly, and if it continues, threaten to sue for harassment and discrimination. Talk to the other pet owners if you see them and try to get quotes from them about them getting, or not getting, in this case, fines and warning about their pets. Ask the HOA for notes on the meeting when they change the pet rules, and show the timeline of when you got your ESA against when they changed the rules. Sounds like you have a case then. If they aren't even following their own rules and regulations, and is fining you but not other pet owners, it should be pretty easy for any decent lawyer to not only get the HOA to rescind the fines, but also pay for damages, mental and emotional stress, and the legal fees. Best case scenario, HOA goes bankrupt and disbands. Worst case, you're going to need to go house hunting. If your partner is on SSI fixed income, then there should be a few programs that can also help.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.